What's up, everybody? Coach CeeLo here. And today, I always say we have a special guest, but today we really, really do have a special guest. This is somebody who I personally have been following on social media and on YouTube since pandemic times. And it's someone that I have a vast amount of respect for on many levels and for many things. We have a lot of things in common. Some things he doesn't even know we have in common, right? Like he's big on trading, which is something that I've got a passion for. But before that, and more importantly than that, he's got over 900,000 followers on YouTube. He's the authority on manifesting right now in social media. He's got a coaching business that he has grown immensely. He went from literally nothing to millions and millions of dollars, guys. I can't say enough. So let me just open the floor to a very, very talented person, Quaz.
Dude,
love having you here, man.
Thank you so much for having me.
You know what? I manifested you coming here.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, I'll show you later. I had the list of everybody that I wanted to have on my podcast.
Yeah.
And then I started like with people that I knew and I have a great respect for in terms of sales and other things. And then I started adding on like the bigger names.
Yeah.
And you're right on there, bro.
Dude,
so
appreciate that, man.
I'm so glad to have you here.
Yeah. It's funny because, before like last year towards like end of the year, I was like, okay, I'm going to stay off podcasts. It takes a lot of time away from focusing on the thing that I want to do. But now it's like, I want to spread the message out there and I can see the collaborations that we do, like just you and me, like just vibing, sharing energy. I think this is a lot more powerful than me just like staring at a
screen.
Yeah, at a screen, at a camera, just by myself, just speaking. There's like a lot less of an exchange happening. So I could totally see like the power of podcasts now. It's like, wow, this is phenomenal.
Yeah, because we can vibe off each other, right? Because when and obviously you know your stuff. That's how we all fell in love with your content. I was just saying right before we started recording that, when I saw you, the first time I saw you, I didn't know who the hell you were. I was like, who's this young guy? But I like what he's saying.
Yeah.
Right? And everything you were saying, I was either agreeing with or I was like, oh, yeah, I kind of like that too. And then seeing you literally implementing everything you were talking about and seeing you grow and it happening in real time was mind-blowing,
Dude, yeah, man, it's been quite a journey.
So listen, I always like to start off kind of with like an origin story or a story arc, right? Mm-hmm. Why don't you tell us, because my audience is basically salespeople and entrepreneurs, right? People who are either making six figures or trying to make six figures and they're kind of, popping, or they've already gotten to that level and they're having that same resistance. I always make trading analogies, right?
Yeah.
Or they're catching that resistance like at multiple six figures. But either or, I talk a lot about identity and how, so this is all going to fit in, but tell us how Quaz became Quaz,
Yeah, you want the long story or the short one?
Whatever you like, dude. Yeah, you can take as long as you want.
Yeah, so my journey began I think what really helped me just do what I'm doing is by the time I was 16, I'd already lived in 4 different continents.
Whoa.
Yeah, so I was born in Bangladesh, continent of Asia. Then when I was 11 years old, when I was 4 years old, I moved to Kosovo. Back then it was called Yugoslavia, right? It was like all combined up,
right?
The Slavic states. And then I was there because my parents worked for the UN. And then I lived there for a year. It was a war-torn area. Then I went back to Bangladesh, lived there till I was 11. Then when I was 11, I moved to Ivory Coast, lived there for a year. That's in Africa. Learned a little bit of French there. Then I moved to the UK, to London, lived there for 4 years, then to New York, from New York to Boston, then Boston back to New York, and then to Florida. So I feel like all of this traveling, what it allows you to do is become super adaptable. And you kind of become like a chameleon and you start to figure out how to fit into different situations, which, especially if you're doing sales, is super crucial because you get different types of people and you understand like how to be, how to relate to different types of people, right? One of the assessments that I did earlier on was this thing called Clifton Strengths. I make my clients do it. And I realized that my number 2 strength is relator, being able to relate to people. And like, you know, I always resonate with people who are real and authentic, and I can smell a scam like a mile away, you know? So I'm very, very picky about like people who I hang out with, interact with, share energy with, because I'm like, I can very well tell like who's genuine, who's real.
Right.
And I think that's what makes me good as a coach, is like understanding people's energies and like how to relate to them better. So anyway, 4 different continents by the time I was 16. Then back like towards the end of my college years, like sophomore, junior year, I was presented with an opportunity to like go into an internship. I was studying engineering, very good student, A+ student, you know, graduated with magna cum laude from Boston University.
Wow.
Yeah, 3.7 or whatever the GPA was. I don't even remember at this point. I was very, very good at school. But then when I, you know, had to get a job, because, you know, there always comes a time where it's like, okay, you're good at school, now you have to get a job. Prove that you can do well in the real world. And so I was looking for jobs, finally found a summer internship at a corrugated box plant where, you get the Amazon boxes.
Yeah.
That's where like one of the factories where they actually make those boxes, where I got the opportunity to work in. It was a great opportunity, but like when I was working there, it was very, very depressing. And I was like, holy shit, like, is this the next fucking, 40 years of my life? Sorry if I don't know. Sales guys love it when you curse, right?
Of course, man.
You know?
They like you more now.
Yeah. So next 40 years of my life, am I gonna be doing this? Like, I couldn't fathom doing this. So I was like, what do I want to do instead? At the time, I had 2 friends of mine who were 18, Raphael and Arlen, and they were both like doing e-commerce, drop shipping, right? And they both had a YouTube channel. And I was like, okay, what do they have in common? Like, they both have a YouTube channel and they're doing e-com drop shipping. Okay, well, let's start with the YouTube channel. I don't really know how to do e-com drop shipping, nor am I really that interested in it. Let's start with building an audience. So in like New Year's resolution, 2017, December 31st, I made the decision, okay, I'm gonna get over my fear of making YouTube videos, because I was always bullied. Because one time, like, I used to make these like guitar tutorials when I was in England, and I got picked on because one day in like homeroom, someone showed the entire class all of my videos, and I was just like red with shame. And I was like,
no.
I made a promise that day forward, I'm never gonna make another video on YouTube publicly ever again. But then I realized like, hey, I'm denying myself. I'm literally sacrificing my dreams because of this irrational, well, maybe rational, but this trauma I have, it's holding me back. And that's when I started my personal development journey. And a lot of talk was about get over your comfort zone, like, get out of your comfort zone, do things that you don't feel like you should, that is comfortable to do, get out of your own way. So doing this as a New Year's resolution was like a big thing for me. And when I made my first video, I was jittery, nervous, putting it out there. What would my friends say? How would I be received? But then I finally did it anyways. And then from that point forward, I made a commitment, just like keep making like weekly, daily videos. And then in like roughly around a year later, like I was learning all of the manifestation stuff. I read this book called Reality Transurfing by Vadim Zealand. And he was talking about how like, hey, if you don't know how to get to your goals, just focus on the what. Like focus on what you want and visualize that. Just visualize what you want, and then the path will show itself. So right now, like if you don't know what path will get you to that goal you want to get to, don't worry about the how, just focus on what you want. And so every night before bed, I combine that with Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich formula. Like I'm so happy and grateful that by this day, I'm making $100,000. I have this much in my bank account. I read that for like 3 years, from 2017, 2018, 2019, no 100,000, not even like $10,000 in my bank account. But then Jan 2020, I literally had like more than $100,000 in my bank account, right? All just by visualizing this, like just visualizing waking up in the mansion in LA, next to the partner of my dreams, walking down the spiral staircase and like those big double doors and like my Ferrari's there. And literally, dude, like I was making a video before this and I was like, holy crap, like I literally have that spiral-ish staircase. I literally have that big door and I literally have the Ferrari.
Now, when you were when you were first doing it though,
yeah,
were you making some money, or were you, not making money, or
yeah?
Because I want them to understand like the difference. You know what I mean?
Yeah. When I was first doing the YouTube, yeah, I wasn't making any money at all for a whole year. I was just building an audience, and it took me a year to get to my first 800 subscribers. And then after that, it was like my senior year was approaching, especially my second semester, and I had a lot of free time because I had a lot of credits freshman year because I did well in school. Kids do well in school. So because of that, I had a lot of free time, and I was like, you know what? I'm really gonna make this work, and I'm not gonna go into this job. Like I can't do this, you know. So I put all of my heart and soul into it, and then I met a friend at the time who was doing something very similar. By chance, like you know how manifestations happen, right? He was doing something similar, and he was selling coaching. And he was a year senior of me, and he was doing manifestation content, and he was selling coaching, and he was making like $3K a month. And I was like, dude, I would be over the moon if I was making $3,000 a month. You know, because it was like at the time I had like $50,000 salary annually, like health insurance, the like. And I was like, if I can make $3K a month, my parents will get off my back about this weird thing I'm doing online, you know? And so I met up with him. I was like, yo, can you teach me? And he was like, dude, yeah, I can show you like what I do, how I do it. And he was like, I invested in this program by Sam Ovens called Consulting Accelerator.
Oh, wow. That guy's a beast.
He's a beast.
That guy's a beast.
Dude, that guy changed my fucking life.
Here's the thing. I don't know him, but everyone who's a beast had been mentored by Sam Ovens. So clearly he's a beast.
Sam pretty much gave birth to like all of the biggest like consultants, coaches, everyone had some kind of an exposure to Sam Ovens. And so in the video that I was making this morning, I was saying like, dude, just meeting one person can completely change the entire trajectory of your life. Just the right person in your life can completely change the entire trajectory of your life, right? Like your partner, your wife or your husband, right? You're with that person all the time. Your mentor, like having that right mentor, right person teaching you something. Like the ROI on meeting the right person is insane. Because when I met Sam, I paid him the $2,000 for his program, Consulting Accelerator, even though I didn't use it 100% to a T. I took the principles and because like they were teaching Facebook ads and I was like, I don't really want to spend money on ads that I don't even have, you know?
Right.
So I'd rather make YouTube videos and make it work that way and get traffic that way. But I still took the principles. I took the sales script and everything.
It worked.
And it worked, you know? And like Feb like 2019, I pitched it to my existing audience of 800 people. I was like, hey, I'm offering this coaching. You know, here's the wait list. Join. Like
I remember that.
Yeah.
I remember watching it literally.
Yeah. And I was like, so, you know, book a call with me. And then people started to schedule a call. And then like the first person I spoke with, I didn't close. But then the second person I spoke with, I was like, okay, it's going to be $1,000. And he was like, okay, yeah, I'm in. Let's do it.
And you're like, what?
And I was like, holy fuck. Are you serious? Are you kidding? You're joking, right? Like you're actually.
You sure you want to do this?
Yeah. Are you sure? Are you sure you want to do this? He was like, yeah, let me go get it. It's like this, my first ever client. I still remember him. He's crushing it now. He's like almost a professional boxer. He's like, he was in Mexico. And it was like, obviously for Mexico, like $1,000 is a decent sum of money, but he was like, yeah, no, I'm willing to invest in myself. And then he gets the card, he fills it up. I had this like weird Wix site, like payment processor thing, or it was PayPal or something. And then, he paid like 500 and 500. I was like, holy crap, this shit works.
It works. Yeah. You just need proof of concept.
You just need $1. You make $1 online. You're like, where there is one, there is plenty. There's millions. So that's how my journey started. That's how I started making money. And then from 2019, like Feb to May, I was making anywhere from like 2K a month to like at the peak, maybe 3.5, like 4. And then May 2019 was the most important, highest pressure month of my life because that's when I graduated. And I had a conversation with my parents. I was like, hey, if I start making like 5K a month from this, you can't give me shit about quitting my job because I'd already called the internship place and I was like, hey, thank you for your offer. I respectfully decline, you know, like I can't do this, blah, blah, blah. And they're like, oh, okay, understandable. Well, not understandable. It's dumb of you to do that. But I did it anyways. And then May 2019 came and that was the worst month of business, worst month of my life. Like it was the most highest pressure month of my life because I was like,
sure,
I don't know if this is going to work. I don't know how long this is going to take. And every single day my dad would come into my room and be like, did you make any sales yet? Did you make any sales yet?
And that's the worst, dude.
It's the worst. It's the worst. Yeah. Right. And so then at that point, the pressure was high and I was just like pumping out videos. I was doing like 7 videos every Thursday, editing them and then prepping them for daily videos.
Oh my gosh.
I did that for 8 months straight. I was spending like 10 hours a day filming 7, planning 7, filming 7, editing 7, prepping to release 7, doing all the thumbnails and everything for like 8 months. I did that. And then everything started to take off at the end of May when I was like, okay, this was the worst month. I made 0.
It's almost like a test, you know?
Every single sales call I got on, there was so much pressure to get the sale. I spoke to like 8 or 9 or 10 people and everyone said no. And that's never happened before, right? And so end of that month, I remember just sitting on the floor in my room and just crying. Like I felt this release, this sense of release. I'm like, wow, my worst nightmare came to life, right? It can't, like, this is rock bottom. Like, it can't get worse than this, in my mind, at least. Things can obviously always get worse. But in my mind, I was like, this is my worst nightmare. The next month, I felt this, like, strange release. And then I started to, like, have a video that went viral, that took off, right? And then I started to have people, like, book calls still. And then I would get on these calls, and all of a sudden, I had my first, like, $5,000 month. You know? Like, I'd never made a $5,000 month before. That was in June. And then July, I had my first, like, 8K month, and August I literally made 22K, and that
now
was
you're
the
getting
goal.
excited.
Yeah, that was the goal. And dude, by like Jan 2020, I had my first $110,000 month in a month. I was like, this is actually insane. And I remember that month, just like having hit that target of 100K month, I was just sitting there and I was like, this is it. This is crazy. You know, you hit it and you're like, this doesn't feel like, it feels surreal, but it doesn't feel like it's kind of disillusioning, right?
Right.
Because you're like, I've wanted this for so long.
And now it's here.
And now it's here. It's like, now what? What's next? You know? So that's kind of like how that progression went. And then that year was my first $1 million year. And then every year after that. And by the way, I have taken maybe 6,000 to 8,000 sales calls.
Wow.
Yeah, and we have worked with over 2,000 clients, right? So I literally, one of the main skills I had to master was marketing and sales. How to present my content in a way that sells, and how to basically do sales calls, like the whole sales process, and take someone from who's just found you to like paying you good money.
Talk to me about when you're growing and all of a sudden now, you may hit like an overwhelm or something because you're taking a shit ton of sales calls and at the same time you're fulfilling on the coaching, and so it's filling up your calendar, and how you worked your way through that portion.
Yeah, I was working 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. 6 days a week, right? And I would take 6 sales calls a day, 6 days a week. So like 36 open bookable slots.
So they were getting on your calendar.
Yep.
You know, basically it was getting auto set for you, right?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. Because I had an application, and every single video I'd be like, hey, if you want to work closer together with me, here's the link to book a call. So then they would get set on my calendar. And then what I would do is from 7 a.m. to 11 a.m., I would do deep work, which is fulfillment, delivery, all of that stuff, like working on the business. And then 11 to 12, I'd have a lunch break. And then 12 to 6, I would just take sales calls.
Wow.
And I did that for like 3 or 4 years. So 2019, 2020, 2021.
Holy crap.
Until I hired my first sales rep, I would say in like 2021.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you end up getting a VA as well to help out, or?
Yeah. So now I didn't have it at the time. I just had the sales rep, and I would just do like all the management stuff. And it was just like, it was a completely different time because it was still very new and fresh to me. And anything that would happen with the business would like be super sensitive and like,
yeah, you wanted to handle it yourself. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like everything had to be perfect. And I couldn't even hiring my first salesperson, I was like, oh, I'm gonna have to train them. They're gonna fuck up a lot of sales calls. It's like coming from a place of scarcity, right?
Right.
Because I'd never seen success like this. I was like, I don't fucking want to lose it. You know, I'll do this for the next like 4 years of my life. But then it's like, I'm not growing, you know? It's because I know what I need to grow, what that next step is, and I need to do something that's uncomfortable. But on the bright side, at that time, I was like staying with my parents in like 2020 until July-ish. And I was just seeing money just like stacking up.
And they're seeing
it. They're not, fortunately, they're not seeing it.
Oh.
You know, they kind of have an idea. But then my first tax bill was like 300 grand in like New York City. And I was like, bye-bye. You know, I was like, I'm
going to Florida.
I'm going to Florida. Yeah. Yeah. And so like Q3 and Q4 of 2020, fortunately, I got Florida taxes instead of New York taxes. Like 2019, I had to pay New York taxes, and first 2 quarters of 2020, I had to pay New York taxes. City, state, and federal.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wild.
So by the way, when I was beginning to follow you, I was living in Jersey and working in New York City. Mm-hmm. So I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah. Yeah. It's crazy, man.
So it sounds to me, and correct me if I'm wrong, right, where there was growth for you in 2 areas. One part was like the manifestation, and then you teaching it, and you living it, and everything that you're doing, right? With the core product, and you being a product of the product, right? And then the other part was the marketing and sales. You know, it's hand in hand, right? Because okay, it's great that you've got a great product, but if you can't market it and sell it, there's no way of monetizing that, right?
100%.
So on the marketing and sales side, do you attribute most of it to what you learned with the Sam Ovens course? Did you have other?
Yeah.
What was your sales arc?
Yeah. So my sales arc was, believe it or not, my sales arc began with learning pickup. So when I
so many people,
that's literally how I got into the personal development space, because I was this loser who always felt like I couldn't do well with women. And so in like 2016 or 2017, I found this company called Real Social Dynamics. It was led by Owen Cook. He does like a lot of personal development content now. And that stuff completely changed my life too. Like that was the first time I experienced something like viscerally changing how I think, act, feel. Right. And it came actually after a pretty big heartbreak. And I was like, no, I need to better myself as a man. Like this can't be happening. And I read books like David Data's like Way of a Superior Man, you know, how to stay about your purpose, and like how your purpose has to be your purpose and the woman can't be your purpose. If the woman's your purpose, then the woman will get turned off, and like she will see that you are just worshiping her, you know?
Right.
And so she will be a part of your purpose instead of her being the sole purpose, etc. So, I learned a lot of that stuff. You know, they'll call it red pill stuff, etc.
No, but you know, I've always said if you're good at sales, you're usually good with the opposite sex, right? And if you're good with the opposite sex, usually you're going to be good at sales as well, because it's many of the same things, you know. Whether they call it a neg in one end or a takeaway in the other, it's still the same concept, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly it, right? So that's where I learned, like I started learning pickup and like social dynamics. And then I realized, okay, after like getting, like I found my wife that way, you know, like because of that, because of those skills, I was able to literally cold approach my wife on a train. Like she was, you know, like she was a year younger. And then she was on the tram in Boston, and she was like wearing headphones, listening to music. And I was like, she's beautiful. I need to go talk to her. You know, I literally just went up to her and I was like, take off your headphones. Nice to meet you. You know?
Very cool.
And then now we have a kid together, like 7, 8 years later.
So when you started getting into your marketing and yourself, so for example, I'll give you some backdrop on me, right? I am extremely good at sales, extremely good at coaching salespeople, extremely good at sales scripts and peaking and like tweaking and peaking sales scripts. Marketing has always been a headache for me, right? And as a matter of fact, the podcast that I did before you with Josh O'Malley, shout out to Josh, I just said, you know what? I just got to stop whining about it and saying I'm not the person, and make it part of my identity and say, 100%. All right, I've just got to learn the marketing end, you know? Yeah. But so I guess where I want to go with this is just, all right, the sales side, you got the marketing and the sales down.
Yeah.
Right? You started taking the calls, and then you yourself started tweaking everything. And since who better to know the product than yourself, right?
Right.
On the other end, so I heard Napoleon Hill, I heard reality transurfing, which, side note, you got to help me, man, understand that pendulum thing, because the pendulum part is where I get lost, right?
Yeah.
And by the way, I think that's why I resonated so much with you specifically more than everybody else, because I loved that when you would do your videos, you always have the board behind you.
Yeah.
And it's almost like a lesson plan.
Yeah.
And it helps really get, like, if it was too much, I'll go back and watch it again.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, I got it. Where everybody else is just sitting in the camera talking about it.
Yeah.
And it sounds great, but gone.
Yeah.
So we got Vadim Zealand, right? Mm-hmm. We've got Napoleon Hill. Sometimes when you talk, you remind me of Bob Proctor a little bit. I don't know if there was some Bob Proctor influence there.
Some people call me the Indian Bob Proctor.
Okay.
I'm not even Indian, bro. Like, it's so funny.
The Bangladeshi.
The Bangladeshi Bob Proctor, yeah.
Were there any other mentors beknownst or unbeknownst to them that you consider mentors within
Yeah.
your manifesting journey?
Believe it or not, like Sam Ovens, like I learned a lot of principles of how to think from him. But one of the other ones I always like to reference is Dr. David R. Hawkins.
Okay.
So he talks about letting go, and he talks about this really powerful concept called power versus force. When you come from a place of force, you're focusing on win-lose scenarios. And when you come from a place of power, you're focusing on win-win.
Did he write a book with that name?
Literally,
Pat David talked about it. I haven't read it yet,
Yeah.
but it's on my list. Power versus Force.
Yeah, it's an insane read. That and Letting Go, I think, two of the best books by him. Yeah.
Wow.
And so a lot of social dynamics is like power versus force. Like when you're trying to manipulate someone into getting what you want, you're living from power versus like force.
Push-pull, right.
Yeah. Right. When it's power, it's collaborative. Both of you become better. Like when you're doing a deal, right? And even like in ancient Jewish mysticism, they talk about this. In the Kabbalah, they talk about this. Like our goal is this thing called Yishuv Olam, which is settlement of the world itself. And meaning like God already created everything. Everything's already done. Our job is to make the world better. And so one of the most useless thing you can do is transform something into nothing. So a lot of people, they take action for the sake of action, which is not doing anything. So when you're transforming something into nothing, you're operating from force. If you win and someone else loses, then that's like the story of Sodom and Gomorrah, right?
Right.
Like why Sodom and Gomorrah failed is because everyone was out to benefit themselves. And there's a story in the Kabbalah where this rabbi goes to purgatory and he sees that everyone's sitting around a dining table with wonderful food, which he was surprised. But, these people, all of their elbows were inverted. So they couldn't feed themselves. And so they were struggling with eternal pain. Then the rabbi goes to heaven and he sees the same setting, which very much surprised him. Wonderful food, table, but also their elbows are inverted in heaven. But what they're doing in heaven is they're feeding each other. Yeah, so when you go to heaven, they're all feeding each other. And I found that that literally goes to show the concept of power versus force in action. When we come from a place of service to other people, unbeknownst to us, it will benefit us. Like a boomerang, good fortune, goodwill will come back to us instead of us just trying to blindly feed ourselves. And it's very easy to get into that mind state, especially when you're living in a place of survival, right? When you're like, oh, I'm in this scarcity mode, I'm not having money come in, I can barely pay my bills, I just need to make the rent for this month. You're not thinking about, when you're in that state, dude, you're not thinking about the long term, right? What vision you have for your life. You're literally thinking about how the fuck can I survive for the next month? I'm taking it month to month, paycheck to paycheck. How can I survive next month? So, those are the moments when you are in apparent scarcity in your world, you have to stay in abundance, right? And you have to still operate from that assumption that abundance is coming. It's on the way. It just hasn't physically materialized yet.
So I'm glad you said this because this is a really important thing because in sales, there's ups and downs.
Yeah.
No matter how good you are, there's going to be ups and downs sometimes.
Yeah.
And if somebody or somebody in our audience finds themselves in that spot where they're just in a shitty spot right now.
Yeah.
What you just said is great to picture, but difficult to execute, right? Yeah. So what could be a couple of steps maybe? What would you recommend for somebody who finds himself in that spot to kind of work their way out of it, at least from a mental manifestation level?
Absolutely, man. The only thing that has allowed mankind to progress forward is hope. Even in the darkest times, if you read Viktor Frankl's work, he was in Nazi prison camp, right? And there was no hope. People were withering away, dying, but he didn't give up. He said, he came up with this thing called logotherapy. He basically said, everything can be taken from a man except his attitude. And that's what he reminded himself every single day. Everything can be taken from me. The Nazis, they can take away everything. My flesh, bones, my food, my clothing, my shelter. But one thing they cannot take away is my attitude. At every single day, I choose that. They will not shake me. They will not break me, right? And so he put one foot in front of the other, and he just moved on with that attitude that I choose what I want to make of it. And so that faith, that hope is what allowed him. It's like this trust in the unknown and the unseen. That's what faith is. Belief is trust in the known and seen. Faith is trust in the unknown and the unseen. If I don't know how or when the thing that I want is going to come, I just assume and I have faith that there is something good in store for me. And when the time is right, God will manifest it into physical existence. But there is a reason why I am going through what I am going through right now. And the less I make a big deal out of it, the less energy I give it, just like a pendulum,
Right.
the less it is going to run my life, you know? So the more energy I give it, the more it's going to control my life. The less energy I give it, the more it's going to be allowed to pass through, right? These are things that are passing through because in ancient yoga, there's talk of karma, right? And karma can be built up in many different ways. There is parabdha karma, which is like our current lifetime of karma that's already been preset based on what we've done in our previous lifetimes. So in this current lifetime, it's already set in motion. Certain things are meant to happen and will happen. However, you still have agami karma, the karma that you're building up that will unfold in the future. So your decisions today will dictate what future karma unfolds. So, you know, for example, if I do something bad to someone today, that will become a bad karma, negative karma that will come to haunt me later on in life. So the only choice we have is what? What we do in this moment. There is only this moment. Everything else is hypothetical, right? Everything is imaginary. Future is imaginary, past is imaginary. Only thing we have is this moment. And so in this moment, we can choose how we're going to, what kind of karma we're going to build, how we're going to respond to all of the karma that is unfolding in front of us right now.
So let's say you're in a bad slump, you're going through a bad slump, but you know, just like you've done many times before, that you're going to get out of that slump. And then don't focus on, it's like, don't make it a big deal.
Yeah.
Regardless of how everything may or may not be falling apart, don't make it a big deal. Just keep focusing on where you want it to go, because eventually it'll eventually work its way out.
If that is what you assume, then that is what reality is going to reflect. Because reality is very neutral. It's a mirror, right? It reflects the image that you present to it. If your attitude is that of this thing that's happening right now, somehow it is happening to benefit me. If that is your attitude, that is the image that you present to the mirror has to reflect that. It'll say, oh, you think this is going to benefit you somehow? Here you go. Here's more benefits. Here's how it's going to benefit you. And then later on, surely later down the line, you see how this benefited you. The lessons become clearer later in hindsight, because hindsight is 20/20, especially in trading, right? You always see the move when you look back. But in the moment, it's always difficult to see, like, oh, something happening. It's fucking terrifying. I don't know if I'm gonna live or die. Like, another thing I would recommend is, this is something I learned from Vadim Zealand too, with importance. If you have all of your eggs in one basket, you're cooked. Your importance level is gonna be high. So
regardless, just by definition.
Exactly. So a lot of my clients who quit everything to do trading, I tell them, like, don't do that, because every single trade is going to have the importance of, this is a make or break.
Your heart starts pumping.
Yeah, exactly. So you don't want that. You want trading to be like a hobby. Everything that you love to do, that you actually want to succeed at, even with sales. This is counterintuitive, but you want to treat it like a hobby. It's an ancillary thing. It's not the main thing. The main thing is your personal development journey, your development as a character and a human being, right? Everything else is secondary on the side. And that's why, like, the yogis always talked about, connect with the spirit, forget the illusion. Everything else will fall into place. So you connect with what is true, the God within you. And when you connect to the true source of life, you start to see how little everything else matters. It's just a play of illusion, right? Like, one day it's going to rain, another day it's going to be sunny. There's seasons to life. And so you're just going to be able to watch them very neutrally as the witness.
Sometimes, I said this once, I don't remember, in one of my podcasts, and I liked it, and I hope I don't butcher it, but I said something to the effect that life is the lagging indicator, and your thoughts is like the chart.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So as you keep thinking what's going, and the lagging indicator will eventually make its way to where price is at,
It's a 20-day moving average, bro. 100%. No, that's absolutely true. It's just like the mirror works with a delay. You have your attitudes, your thoughts. It's just like karma, right? It'll show up later on. With a delay, it will show up in physical reality.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. So I was surprised when I first started hearing you talk about trading, because in the beginning, I didn't hear you talk about trading, right?
Yeah.
So I thought of you as, the manifest guy, right?
Yeah,
the manifestation guy, which I loved. And then you started talking about trading, and I was like, Oh, dude's a trader too.
Yeah.
Had you always been into trading and you just started mentioning it, or did it just come in as a new hobby for you?
So I have always invested my money because I've always believed that your money should work for you. Like you should not be working for money your whole life. Your money at some point should begin to work for you. So I believe everyone has two different businesses, right? One business is like the thing that gives you active income, and the other business is your investment business that allows you to live without needing active income.
100%.
So I've always invested my money, but I never traded, like actually day traded or tried to understand trading like that. Last year, though, we started getting a lot of trading clients, and I started to notice that our trading clients were doing exceptionally well. Right, like this one client of ours, within 8 months of working with us, he shifted his identity to viewing himself as a profitable trader. He trades futures, he trades with prop firms. He went from making no money, like even though he had a really good strategy, to just making the identity shift, viewing himself as a profitable trader.
I think I know who you're talking about.
Noor, my client Noor, yeah, he's making 40K a month. Like last month, he took a $39,000 payout.
Wow.
Right, so just by pressing a few buttons at the right time, this guy is making 40 grand a month. So imagine like the incredible amount of freedom you could get if you just learn to press buttons at the right time. Like no other time can you live in where this would have been a possibility, right? So when I started to notice like these kinds of results our clients were having, I was like, it's a no-brainer that we should.
Why don't I do it?
That too, but it's like, hey, what? I'm very, very curious, like why these clients are getting good results and why some people like never succeed with trading, even though they were in it for 7 or 8 years. This is an interesting problem for me to solve, and let me see if I can help traders. And then I was like, the only way I can help someone, because I started like aligning my content and also my advertising to targeting traders. And I started to notice that, right, they're speaking, but I'm hearing gibberish. I don't really understand anything they're saying. I don't really relate to them, right? And I kind of dislike this. Like, there's so many people out there. It's very shady. They like sell trading stuff, but they don't trade. You know, they'll sell e-commerce. Oh, they suck. Yeah. Or they'll sell like e-commerce or drop shipping stuff, right? But they don't have their own businesses. So to me, that always felt like a little bit sketchy. So I was like, I need experience at least to understand what they're going through. So I'm like, I'm going to fully dedicate myself to trading and investing. Right.
Sweet.
And so maybe like 5-6 months ago, I started actively trading. I started like my most lucrative form of investing has been selling options. So option selling has been very, very good for me because you collect premium right now and you just basically bet on things that you know will go up over time. And if it goes up, you keep collecting premium. And if you own it, you sell like covered calls or you sell puts, you keep making money and you grow it. Right, you're basically you're looking at different industries. It's very interesting. You look at different industries and you're like, okay, AI is booming. What's going to boom with AI? Oh, okay. Not financial advice, obviously. Data centers. Data centers are going to keep booming, right? Chips, energy. There's going to be a huge requirement for energy. So what energy companies are well positioned to be able to profit and have that 10x? Because it's like we're in like this new industrial revolution, the AI industrial revolution era now. Everything is all hands on deck AI, right?
Right.
We're competing against China. We're competing against all of our competitors to like be the first to get to AGI. So I just, it'll be stupid. It'll be very silly to like short this space. I don't know if you saw what Michael Burry did with like all the puts.
No, I didn't.
The big short guy who he successfully shorted the real estate market. So I found it kind of silly. I'm like, again, I'm not that intelligent to see what he sees, but he shorted like the entire AI industry, and I'm like, wow, really? Like you're going against like this big tide? That's ballsy.
But I want to know what he knows or what he thinks he knows.
Right. He's been wrong like 20 times, but the one time he's right, he banks.
He nailed it. Yeah.
Yeah, he nailed it that one time, but it's ever since then it's just been the doomsday naysayer, right?
So help me understand the pendulums of Vadim Zealand.
Yeah.
Because I still don't, when he says it, I'm still thinking of like the regular pendulum, right?
Yeah. So it's interesting because it is, if you actually think about it, it is kind of like that regular pendulum. That regular pendulum has a swing, right? But it has a frequency through which it swings.
Right.
Frequency is basically the time it takes to complete one cycle of the swing. So you go from here to here, back to here, is the time that it takes. That's like the rhythm at which it's swinging. Now, what he's really talking about is this concept called egregores, which is different groups have different kinds of frequencies or energies or the swing that they're oscillating at.
Right.
So if you look at frequencies, there is the chart that David R. Hawkins talks about, which is the levels of consciousness. He created this logarithmic scale from 0 to 1,000, where 0 is the lowest possible energy in the human domain, which is apathy, shame, grief, all of those, where you don't have energy to do anything.
Side note, Bob Proctor used to do that too. He used to have a chart. So it's
he had a chart?
yeah.
Oh, okay. And then at the level of, there's a level that's denoted at the level of 200, which is the level of courage. That's when you enter neutrality. So anything below 200, which are feelings of anger, pride, shame, grief, fear, these are all lower energy states, which are negative energy states. So the pendulum can have that frequency. Now, what you'll notice is society likes to keep us at those frequencies because then they can hypnotize us, they can mobilize us to do things that we feel silly doing in hindsight, right? So if you look at people who riot, they kind of get absorbed in the heat of the moment, and they're like, I don't know why I did that. And when they look at it in hindsight, right? Because society likes to keep us in 3 to 4 main predominant states: pride for our country, anger, fear, and shame, right? These are the 4 main states that society likes to keep us in. When we feel shame, when we start to compare ourselves to other people, it makes us like go out there and get surgery and do all these things to fit in, right? When we see something on social media or news, that's why the news is rarely ever positive, because you can't do something when someone's positive. It's like, oh, something wonderful is happening today.
Nobody pays attention.
No one cares. But if you grip someone with fear, you can control them. You can manipulate them. Because in fear, people will do stupid shit, because that's like a survival, like that's one of the oldest emotions, feelings, like the most primitive feelings that we all have that allows us to survive. So that's how pendulums work, is there's different frequencies that these pendulums operate at. Destructive pendulums typically are at the level of below 200, right? Which is anger, keeps you stuck in anger, keeps you stuck in fear, keeps you stuck in pride. But then constructive pendulums are the levels above it, which are, what is it? Rationality or like logic, love, joy. These are the highest feelings you can feel. Peace, enlightenment, so those levels are more constructive. Gratitude, right?
Authenticity.
And what you'll notice is about these frequencies and these levels of energy, you don't feel this dopamine spike. When you consume a stimulant, you feel a spike, but then a depletion afterwards.
Yeah.
Like you're like drained afterwards.
Yeah.
But then if you feel this solid high all the time, you won't be able to notice because you don't get a jolt of energy.
Like when you meet somebody you like,
yeah,
and you've got that, and that lasts for like,
it lasts.
Yeah,
and both of you are sharing great energy, and you're both like going up without needing any kind of stimulant. You're just having like a great conversation, etc. So that's basically how pendulums work. Is there's groupthink, different people when they come together, they resonate at a particular frequency. So if you have sports groups, there's a particular energy. Right?
Sure.
There is like when you go into a concert, there's a particular energy of that concert. When there's a business mastermind, there's a meditation group. These are all pendulums.
A motivation seminar.
Exactly. It's impossible to be free of pendulums as long as you function in society. The most important part is, how do I choose constructive ones that allow me to get closer and closer towards my goals, and avoid destructive ones that take me further and further away from my goals.
And so if you're trying to like manifest something, or if you're working on manifesting something, I mean, there's easy short ones, and then there's long-term ones, right?
Yeah.
How do you manipulate those pendulum? Like, do you just try and avoid pendulums, or are you trying to ride one like a wave? Or
yeah, you kind of try to ride the constructive ones like a wave. And that can be in listening to motivational content, things that bring you up to that energy level, right? Or surrounding yourself with the right people who resonate at that energy level. Like if you're a successful trader, but you're hanging out with someone who's not a successful trader, or like a bunch of people who are not successful, then the likelihood that you'll be successful is lower. But then if you get into a room full of traders that everyone is successful and you're the worst one there, that's why
it'll bring you up.
It'll bring you up, right? So the very first time I got exposed to that was when I joined this like mastermind where everyone was minimum making 100K a month, and that was the hygiene standard. And I was the only one like making 10K. And I was like, oh man, I'm the lowest in the room. And so then I caught up, right? So that's the energy. It pulled me up to that level. So does that answer your question?
100%.
Yeah. Riding, you kind of have to ride pendulums, yeah.
Okay. So what's next? in your life? Like, what are your next goals? What are your next things? What's going on right now? Obviously, other than what we know, right? But
Yeah, I think my life like drastically changed after I had a kid. Obviously, like it does with everyone.
Clearly, yeah.
Now it's like for the very first time in my life, I'm not like hell bent on trying to get somewhere. And this was like eye-opening for me when I heard Joe Rogan say it. Like he was like, I don't have any goals. I'm just trying to become better every single day at whatever it is I'm doing, at MMA, at hunting, at podcasting, at being a father, at being a husband. Every single day I'm getting better and better. So I'm kind of at that point where it's like every single day I'm trying to get better and better. But really, some of the things that would be wonderful for me to achieve would be getting to 1 million subscribers, just seeing that number, being able to change the lives of people. Because like when I look at the kind of impact I have, like even when you mentioned it, when you guys are mentioning like, yo, I watched your channel, like that makes me feel like, oh man, something I'm doing is contributing positively to society, which is that Yeshiv Olam concept in the Kabbalah, right? It's like,
and it's something that we looked forward to. Like I'm waiting to see the next video.
Right.
When you were talking about Yeshiv Olam, I just saw that a day ago on the video that you did. So it's very clear that it's real. It's not like we're saying something on a podcast,
Right. Exactly. And so like, that's really what I'm going for at this point in my life is like, how can I, work with the right people, because I'm not looking to just expand, scale, and grow for the sake of it, but it's like, I'm trying to expand, scale, like quality. So ever since we pivoted to attracting like the kind of clientele that I actually want to work with, that I would enjoy working with, it's been a lot more fulfilling. So fulfillment is really like the name of the year, the word of the year for me. It's
very
2026,
cool.
yeah.
Very cool. So I always like ending my podcast with this very simple question, and you've heard many versions of it before, but let's say that Quaz runs into his younger self again, and you have a chance of giving yourself some advice on just what to come, right? Because again, not all of my subscribers are young guys. Some of them are my age or older, right? But the majority of them are probably in their 20s and 30s.
Yeah.
Maybe even a few younger than that. They're in sales. They're good, really good. It's not great yet, right? Yeah. And so they're struggling with some of the things that you struggled with in the beginning, right? So if you ran into that younger self, what kind of advice would you give them?
Yeah, the number one thing I would say is whatever it is you're doing, treat it like a game. You get good at games you enjoy because you lose track of time that you're spending trying to master it. So when I mastered this skill of sales, like I spent so much time doing it and falling in love with it, speaking to people, understanding them, understanding my product, how to position myself to be different, and just getting feedback, right? Like a lot of the times you can't consciously see it, but as you keep getting the reps in, the pain you feel from getting no, eventually you will find corrections, right? Eventually, after a certain amount of no's, you're going to, because our brains are a servo mechanism. When you focus on the target, you will find a way to get there. Like the corrections will be made subconsciously. You don't need to really manipulate corrections like that. So even if you can't see an improvement right now, just put one foot in front of the other because the improvement will subconsciously be made. The lessons that you need to learn, they will be learned subconsciously. Kind of like when you go to the gym, you don't will your body to recover and replenish those muscles. It happens subconsciously, right? It just happens just through the grace of God, right? So through the grace of God, like as you keep immersing yourself in this field, even if you don't consciously see like, oh, okay, I don't know where to improve. I don't know if I'm doing it right. You are doing it right just by doing it. Just put one foot in front of the other. And as you have more time and more reps doing it, you'll eventually get to mastery. It's just like time under tension.
Man, I can't think of a better way of ending it, man. Guys, my name is Coach CeeLo. We had Quaz on here. Everybody, his social media is going to be on there. The YouTube's going to be on there. We'll have all the links up there. Make sure you show him some love. But I have helped thousands of salespeople reach, attain, maintain six figures. You keep listening to us. You'll be the next. We're out of here.